Do we have 9 o'clock, and I'd like to call the March 18th meeting of the Person Board of County Commissioners to order at this time to recognize that we do have a quorum. We'll have a devotion, after which Commissioner Sims will lead us in our pledge. So if you desire to, please pray with me. Merciful God, we recognize you as Almighty amongst us today. Guide this board in its decisions. May it be in the best interest of our county. Pray your blessings on our law enforcement, our EMS, all our emergency workers, and our military that's all over the world, protecting our right to have meetings such as today. And we lift our prayers to you in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. You will stand with me and salute our flag, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
First on the agenda is discussion, adjustment, approval of the agenda as presented. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Have a motion, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 1 is a public hearing, quasi judicial, special use permit or SUP 0623, a request by the applicant and property located at or by owner Connor Perkins, plus or minus 5.8 acres, located at 1351 Jim Thorpe Highway. That was tax map 68135. Do we have a motion to open our public hearing?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll declare the public hearing open at this time. And at this point, we would like to administer the oath or swearing in testimony by those who will be testifying. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. May I please have Charles Sands and Connor Perkins come forward?
And Madam Clerk, if there's anyone else in the audience who wishes to testify today, they should be sworn at this time as well.
Okay. Anybody else who signed up today for any other hearing, that would be?
Well, just for this hearing, yes, ma'am.
For this hearing. So are there any other individuals?
Okay.
Okay. You can come forward. You can come forward,
Yeah,
Mr. Perkins.
yeah, come on up.
All right. If you'll place your hand on the Bible, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before Mr. Bowley begins, I'll ask the question to board members. Is there anyone that may have a conflict of interest related to this request?
Nope. No, sir.
Hearing none, Mr. Bowley, go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Chairman and Commission. Chris Bowley, Planning Department. And, hopefully I have a PowerPoint up here for you. There we go. Okay, before you today is the Perkins Recreational Vehicle Park Application Special Use Permit, SUP 0623. Subject property is 5.8 acres of vacant land located at 1351 Jim Thorpe Highway, approximately 790 feet southwest of Jim Thorpe Highway and Alley Clay Road. It has an R residential zoning district and a growth area future land use designation. The planning ordinance allows for camper RV park within the R zoning district with a special use permit. Proposed RV park will have up to 3 pads. Applicant has followed the planning ordinance criteria and is consistent with the comp plan and is compatible with existing land uses in the area. This is general map A, just showing the proximity of the property. This is an aerial photo showing it's vacant and consistent with adjacent land uses. This is the future land use map showing the growth area, future land use designation in all directions, and the zoning map with the R zoning district. This is the site plan, which was followed using section 81 of the planning ordinance and section 155-2, which is required to. And these are the 4 findings of facts presented by the applicant. That the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted and approved. And the applicant's responses are to the side. All systems such as septic, well, pad, etc. will be up to standard and approved. The site will be in an area that is away from the general public and be private, but be easily accessible to the renters. That the use meets all required conditions and specifications. The site will be developed in accordance with the approved plans and regulations as required. The use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. There is a need for living quarters, and these are mobile campers that will be easily moved. The campground will also not be visible from any adjoining property. That the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it would be located and in general conformity with the comprehensive plan. The campground will be located off of US 501, an area convenient for access and frequently used for business and travel. The campground will also be developed in accordance to the regulated and approved plan. Staff recommendation and potential motion. Based on the above, the Planning and Zoning Department staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners approve special use permit SUP 0623 for the Perkins Recreational Vehicle Park with the following conditions. The applicant continues to obtain all required permits from Person County, the state of North Carolina, and any other agency to achieve construction, operations, and maintenance of the subject property. The Person County noise ordinance is followed. As stated by the applicant, campers' RVs will be screened from public view from adjacent properties. This screen shall be perpetually maintained while the subject property is used as a camper RV park. The camper RV park shall use community meters and not be separated into individual meters per pad for permanent housing, and the use of a camper RV for temporary workforce housing for a period up to 6 months with no consecutive rentals of the pad to the same tenant or their designee. That's it. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Questions? Go ahead, sir.
I just have one question on that.
Yes, sir.
Is there a limit, or what is the maximum number of RVs that can be on the property? I know there's 3 pads, but is that it, or could it be more?
We start with the Environmental Health Department, and then they set the number of pads that can be carried out there on the property for well and septic. So up to 3 is the maximum.
3 is the max?
Yes, sir.
Question, to ensure that we go through proper procedures here, no questions about that, they're doing the right thing. But explain to me, number one, the applicant continues to obtain all required, what?
Beyond us,
Oh,
that they
okay.
still have to get other permits.
And those would come from whom?
They would come potentially, if they're gonna get a driveway permit to US Highway 501, they're gonna have to go to DOT and get a driveway connection permit. They'll still have to go through our inspections department to get any building permits for electrical, mechanical engineering, plumbing, et cetera.
Right, okay, good. Any other questions?
Chris, this is gonna be a gravity line?
Um, this will just be contained on site for on-site septic.
So it's just gravity line? It won't
Yes,
be
sir.
pumped off a site?
Correct,
into another
yes,
line?
sir.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, do we have comments in favor of or opposed to?
Yes, sir, we have the applicant Connor Perkins, and then we have Charles Sams.
Okay.
Mr.
and,
Perkins?
Okay, if he would like to speak first, that's fine.
Mr. Sams?
I'm not opposed to this. I'm an adjoining landowner. As long as everything is done according to what the application is, that we can't see it from our property. And one thing wasn't addressed, is it fenced in? It says it's screened, but is the RV, does it have a fence on the backside? That's a question I want. We just want to make sure that my wooded area isn't perceived as a county park. And we have, you know, a potential of incident with people walking on there and have an issue with what's going on. So if it's not fenced in, I do ask that at least a, 4-foot chain link fence be put up on the backside to distinguish the property line itself. But if we can't see it from our place and that's done, I don't have an issue with it at all. So, and it's not gonna be expanded from what I gather here, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
We're good.
Thank you. Right.
I mean, to start off, I would just like to say that yes, I agree to testify to the findings of fact as presented by planning. And in regard to addressing the fence, the screening I have intended is going to be mostly vegetative, like evergreen type screening, Leland cypresses. If we need fencing and berms pushed up, we'll evaluate that, but that'll all be part of the site plan going forward, as stated by planning and zoning. There's still a little bit more to be done. After this process, still got to go forward, do a little bit more to the site plan, get us more permits, and then go on with construction.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll
please.
just, one of the suggestions I have is possibly putting up no trespassing signs where their property is. That way, again, people understand where the barrier's at, and of course, if they go on the other side, then they're trespassing. So that's what I would recommend, that be put around the barrier, when you get your part.
Yes, sir. No trespassing signs of purple paint.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
That is the only two individuals signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Any discussion? Hearing none, motion to close the hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None, motion carried. Item number 2 on the agenda would be consideration to deny or grant the request as submitted. Do we have a motion?
The chair, I'll make the motion. Consider the grant.
Have a motion for approval. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None, motion carried. Item number 3 on the agenda is request SUP 0124, a request by the applicant and property owner, Matthew Brandon's Record Service Incorporated, for special use permit approval on plus or minus 25.6 acre lot tax map 858-192 on Boston Road. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Have a motion to open the public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Okay, if we, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone to speak in this hearing?
Yes, sir. So can I please have Timothy McElroy, Teresa Parkman, Travis Wilson? If you'll please place your hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Michelle, can we also have the applicant's representative here as well?
Yes.
And before we begin, do we have any conflict of interest with any board member? Hearing none, all right, Ms. Foley, thank you.
Do you mind if we did the swearing in for the applicant's representative? This is Mr. Brandon's father.
We will do that.
He's out of confidence.
All right, is your last name Brandon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Brandon, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Brandon Salvage Operations, Special Use Permit Application SUP 0124 in front of you today. This is a 25.6 acre tract located at 5022 Boston Road, generally located on the west side of Jim Thorpe Highway across from Pollywood. Site has a rural, future land use designation, and RC and R zoning designations. The proposed salvage operation junkyard commercial use will be confined to the RC zone portion of the property. Salvage operation junkyard needs special use permit within the RC zoning district, and the applicants followed the planning ordinance for the SUP application and site plan criteria. With SUP approval, access management and screening, the site will be consistent with the comp plan and county ordinances. It exists out there today, and we're trying to make it legally compliant through this action. Came to us through a code case. So this is the aerial photo, and it'll be hard to see, but down in the northeast corner, that's where the salvage operation is currently. And as you can see, also there's a house on the property, and there's soon to be a commercial building up here. This is the future land use map with the rural future land use designation. This is the zoning map with the RC to majority of the north and residential to the south. Here's the site plan, and again, it's hard to see, but that little northeast corner will be fenced in and screened, and all of the salvage material will be here. And then the applicant is acquiring a 50-foot access easement across the per year property to the east, out to Jim Thorpe. Another alternative, if that didn't happen, would be to come in off of Grace Lane here, which is an existing public right. Here are the findings of fact with the applicant's answers to the right, that the use will not materially endanger the public health and safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted and approved. The project will not endanger the health or safety of the public per getting all of the required permits, that the use meets all required conditions and specifications. Permits are being requested to obtain the specifications to maintain the salvage yard. Once approved, this will give all of the rules to be followed, that the use will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining or abutting property, so that the use is a public necessity. Fencing will be installed to separate the business property salvage yard from any personal property. That the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area and which is to be located in general conformity with the comprehensive plan. Other businesses exist within the area that are similar to this request, and this business should conform. This is staff recommendation and a potential motion that the applicant, staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners approve special use permit 0124 for the Brandon salvage operation with RC zone property with the following conditions: that the applicant obtains all required permits from Person County Environmental Health, Planning and Zoning Department, Inspections Department, as well as required permits from any other agency to achieve construction, operation, and maintenance of the subject property. The subject property has legal access and a physical driveway with a recorded easement or from Gospel Lane. The salvage operation is confined to the subject property at tax map A58-192 and parcel identification number 091800914724.000. The salvage operation includes a minimum 6-foot-high secured fence that screens the use from adjacent properties and keeps operations entirely on the subject property. The applicant shall not park or store vehicles or salvage materials on adjacent properties or within access easements and rights-of-way. And the applicant shall provide continual property maintenance that does not impact adjacent properties, to include maintenance of the perimeter security fence, fire safety access, and any directional downward security lighting. And that's the potential motion repeated. With that, if you have any questions.
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
In the, just say this passes, who follows up on, like, environmental, as far as, looking back over the years, I've been to a lot of junkyards, and they have a lot of oil spills, either from the car being wrecked and it's leaking out, or for various reasons. So does somebody, and there's a creek down in the bottom below that. So who follows up? State, you guys, to make sure this doesn't happen?
Yes, sir.
And get into this creek?
We have we have two contacts for DEQ and Raleigh that we work with on similar properties if it becomes that issue. It's happened twice since I've been here, where we've noticed environmental concerns, called them, and had them removed.
Was this old sites or new sites?
Both are old.
Both were old,
Yes, sir.
so they had to clean up all that oil.
They had to. They were in barrels. They were in 55-gallon drums, but they had to be removed.
Right. What I'm envisioning, hoping not to happen, is it have spills and it makes its way eventually into the creeks.
Yes, sir. Agreed. And we would coordinate with the state agencies for that. And we do follow up with our code enforcement officer to inspect.
Chris, I have a
Yes, sir.
couple questions. One is, and you mentioned that this is to get them back into compliance as far as the permit requirement. And how long have they been out there operating?
Unknown. I mean, we were called on another matter, and then while we were out there, and they have since taken the steps to comply with the other matter. Then this also existed on the property, and so we brought it up to them while we were out there, and they said they would comply, and they have, and they've submitted all the applications and taken the steps, but
Have there been any complaints on the property?
on the other side, on Boston Road side. That's where the initial complaint came from.
Okay. And the screening that they're going to be doing, 6-foot-high fence, that is a fence that you cannot see through, is that correct? Or is it, where
Yes, sir.
it's not visible?
Right, it's to comply with our junkyard ordinance, it has to be 100% opaque. So they'll have screening material. From what I understand, it's supposed to be a chain link fence with black screening on it.
Okay.
The total acreage that's being identified as this salvage, is that sectioned off? I saw the map, but explain the whole site, that 25 acres, does that include the home?
It includes the home. The entire property is 25.6
Right.
acres. Yes, sir, the parent tract. And this area encompasses about an acre.
Yeah, okay.
And they've since, from my understanding, they've since built a pond at the low side of the hill for on-site stormwater management adjacent to where this is. And then they also, there's an existing path across the Kevin Puryear property from Jim Thorpe into this property. And that's where they're recording the easement for access to come and go, rather than go through Gospel Lane.
Looking at the aerial map, and I think I see where the salvage yard is going to be right there in the right side of this map you showed us earlier. I don't know if you can pull it up or not.
Yeah, I don't,
It's the Exhibit A.
Can we get the PowerPoint back up? I don't know if anybody's ever in IT over there. There we go. Went too fast, sorry. There we go.
That one right there, okay. Right in the right top, for me, top right-hand corner, that's, looks like there's a lot of trailers or something there. Is that where the salvage is?
And the little red dot, it'd be difficult to see, but right there at the northeast corner. So this is Gospel Lane, and this is the Puryear property, and that's Jim Thorpe. And then across Boston is the RV park, the Berryville
Right.
RV park.
Are they looking, they're already there, are they looking at expanding, or is it, that's pretty much what they have there is what they're gonna have?
The latter, what they have is what they're gonna have.
What
Yes,
they're gonna
sir.
have, so they're not looking at expanding, increasing, okay.
And then the applicant lives on the property at this house. And
Yes.
then he put up a detached garage for his own personal use. And now they're under construction with a larger facility because it is the home of Brandon's Wrecker Service. This is
Okay.
where he operates from. So he has trucks, and he'll be placing some of the trucks inside of that building. I think he has about 11 or 12 trucks.
Yeah, okay.
Will that area have public access, or is that for private use?
It will be for private use coming in off of the easement. One of the conditions of approval will be for him to get this easement recorded with the Register of Deeds. So it is a recorded instrument for access management, for ingress egress
Okay.
to come and go.
Any other questions? None, thank you, sir. And
Thank
Madam Clerk, do we have speakers?
Yes, sir. So the applicant's father, Mr. Brandon, is in favor of. If you had any questions for him.
For the record, yes.
Mr. Brandon,
Yes.
were you gonna speak on behalf of your son?
Well, we will do whatever it takes, you know, to make people happy, and we'll go by. We'll put the fence up. It'll be a black top around the fence, and we do have permission from Kevin Puryear to use his right of way in and out, and we have gotten that surveyed. I'm not sure if we've gotten the paperwork or not. My board would know probably, but I'm not sure if we've gotten the paperwork for that or not, but we have gotten it surveyed to go in and out. And that's about all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. So that's all the comments?
No, we have
Oh.
speakers who are in opposition.
Okay, good.
So the first one we have is Timothy McElroy.
Morning, everybody. My name is Tim McElroy. I live basically across the street from Mr. Brandon's property. And just by a show of hands, how many among you
We can.
would like to live in front of a junkyard? Anybody? Didn't think so. I'm opposed to it because I really just, the truck noise from the Jake braking coming down the road with his big tow trucks and flatbeds, pardon me, is annoying enough, but to have to put up with listening to all the crap that's going on over there. Not to mention what the other gentleman said was about leaking oil, about leaking antifreeze, getting into the groundwater. It's gonna happen. So anyway, it's a done deal. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
The next person we have is Teresa Parkman.
Go Good morning.
Good morning. So we were here a few years ago with that RV park that went in, and we imposed that, but you still put it through. Apparently over there too, they become permanent residents because the school bus comes in and out of there every day, and there's a lot of noise. But as far as the junkyard, yeah, it's across the street, and when they talk about a fence, well, there's already junk cars all along the street. And if they put a fence in, because it's a hill, you will still see all the junk. The fence will only be so high. It goes up a hill. He's got containers in there. He's got big equipment, hauling equipment in there. Again, like my husband said, the noise that comes in and out of there at all times, not just on the daytime. I've heard it Sunday night at 11:30 at night, trucks coming in and out of there. A junkyard, you know, it was peaceful. We've been there 20 years. And we moved out there because it was peaceful and quiet. And now with all the noise, it's just hard to contend with. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker we have is Travis Wilson.
Hey, I'm Travis. We got property on Jim Thorpe Highway, Boston Road, and Gospel Lane. Normally, I'm not opposed to anybody doing anything they want to, as long as they pay the taxes and they ain't polluting the air, water, and soil. But I've received letters from the county demanding that I clean up land on Gospel Lane, or they're just gonna put liens against the property if they clean it up. So I don't see how y'all could turn around and approve something trash when y'all demand that I clean up. On top of that, I'd kinda like to see it, if you put Exhibit A back up. As far as the 25 acres, if we could limit it down to surveying 1 acre off so that we can make sure that it's not expanded beyond that 1 acre, I would appreciate that if it's not gonna be expanded.
There's the pointer if you want. Just that
Little red dot?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's kinda small, ain't it? But, up Gospel Lane there's a church, and the church mainly uses the road, and it's not a whole lot of road maintenance on the road. So if you increase the road traffic for the church, I'm not speaking for the church, but I know it's gonna tear up their road. You start hauling tractor trailers in and out there. So it's a gravel road, and pretty much only the church uses it, other than our properties being adjacent to it. We don't use the road. But yeah, there is a lot of junk cars along the Boston Road side, but if you could limit it to, you know, him surveying off that 1 acre, and so that it ain't expanded, and as far as like a plan going forward, I'd like to see something testing water, groundwater, or soil in that 1 acre to make sure it's compliance every so many years. I don't know what, you know, what the county or state has plan-wise, or just somebody has to put it up, you know, like bring it to somebody's attention. I'd rather, you know, periodically be tested. But other than that, I don't really care if, you know, he has a place there or not, as far as the junkyards, as long as it's contained. But as far as the county sending me stuff to clean up on Gospel Lane, and then I get a letter in the mail saying we're having a public hearing, but putting the junkyard at the end of Gospel Lane, that's kind of pissed me off. But that's all.
Thank you.
There's no other speakers.
That's it. Okay. No other comments, then do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Chairman Bowell,
Yes, sir.
I would like to ask a question or two.
Yes, sir.
The existing roadway coming in is coming off of Boston Road, correct? It will not be coming off of the old Highway 501.
The existing driveway now comes in off of Jim Thorpe
Right,
501.
Jim Thorpe 501.
Right, and not off of Boston Road. It'll have no access to that. And then topographically, there is a hill between Boston Road and this would sit down in the lower part of the property. So it's difficult to see from Boston Road.
It's on the back side.
It's on the backside of the
Right.
hill, right? And then there's a little valley, I'll call it. So if you're looking into the property from Jim Thorpe, there's actually another little hill there and two buck barns. And so it's really difficult to see down into that. But you do see some material, the top of material, like trailers and so forth.
2 foot.
Yes, sir. And the
This-
fence.
Did I overhear, did
screen
you
it.
say this is not gonna be an expansion of this?
Right, yes, sir. It's actually
South
gonna
Tower.
contract it and bring it into a smaller area. Because right now, if we were looking at the aerial, it does spill over into other
Okay.
areas.
Okay, gotcha.
So we're trying to confine it.
That makes it better for everybody. Okay, that's all I got.
What was the recommended vote by the planning board?
Was there?
The staff recommended approval of SUP 0124 with the conditions of approval.
Okay, there were conditions for approval that we've all seen and read.
Yes, sir.
Considering comments previously made, is there any discussion here related to that request, something about restricted area, maintain it within that 1 acre? Going forward with some stipulations about checks and balances for spillage and leakage and water protection, I mean, all those things we just heard about. So, any discussion there, that when we go forward with this, do we want to place into this agreement some of those restrictions?
Well, I'm going back to the lady who spoke earlier, talking about it's on a hill and you could see it. You know, is that is she talking about another area? Is she talking about where the area you're talking about? I'm trying to get a visual look at this. Can't tell here, but if it's on a hill and you got a 6-foot fence, I understand you're gonna see it. So that's why I'm wondering, is it on a hill or is it down? You mentioned down the bottom, so I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yes, sir. So today, if you were to drive out there on Boston Road, you'd look over and see a sparse vegetative hedge where they're putting this new building, and you'll see salvage material there, junk cars and otherwise. And so we've asked in this effort to take those scrap vehicles and move them into this area and get them away from Boston Road and let that area with the new buildings going for the tow trucks to be just that, a truck terminal, which is a by right use in the RC zoning district. So it would take the salvage scrap off of the Boston Road side and bring it down to this area.
And that area is about, is it an acre or is it more than an acre? How much is that?
That isn't delineated, but I would say being out there, it's more 2 to 3 acres. It's a larger area, and it is visible from Boston Road today.
Okay.
And part of the site plan, we've had the applicant do a separate site plan for that truck terminal operation and add screening along the Boston Road area. So they're gonna add landscaping to the existing trees that are out there to create that opaque view from Boston Road for across the street.
Another question, once this is, I'm assuming once it goes through, if it goes through, could we not have this front portion towards the old highway fenced out to where you could cover over the vehicles and trailers and tractors? And
Yes, sir.
instead of a 6 foot, could we go like an 8 or 10?
You can set the height as a condition of approval. Yes, sir, 8, 10 feet.
That would help. The interesting part is it over there across the street.
For the area down surrounding the salvage yard, that's where the new fence will go, and that's where the height would be. So if it was 8 or if it was 10, it would certainly screen more of the material out of view.
I think that's what, a couple of the residents are concerned about. They don't want to see the operation going on.
Yes, sir.
And what is the acreage about from the home I see across the road to where the actual junkyard is? Probably half a mile?
Less than that. I think it's probably on the 25 acres. It's probably 300-400 yards from the house at the top of the hill.
3 to 4 football fields.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the question is, do we want to put some kind of amendment in here to comply with the concern about the road, the in and out traffic, the maintenance of that access road, if that's what it's called? Now, that access road is on someone else's property.
It's on Kevin Puryear's property.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, again, do we want to, board members, do we want to put anything in there about maintaining that road?
I would like to add one more concern of mine. If I was living across the road, after hours, I heard 11:30 at night activity. Could we not stop this somewhere around 7, 8 o'clock in the evening? Not
Yes,
at
sir.
bedtime?
We can ask the applicant to come back up and limit hours of operation to make
Today
sure.
or?
Sure, right now.
Okay.
We can ask him to come up and agree to that.
Yeah.
Because we can't control typically
Well,
once
that's
it's
just-
open.
I think it would be
And
courtesy
Mr.
to
Attorney
the
has a-
landowners.
Have a
Mr.
comment
Palmer,
for
if I may, I mean, y'all are generally asking the right questions. As a board, you can impose conditions that help it to comply better with the ordinance, to address concerns like the ones that have been raised. One question about the hours of operation you may want to ask them is, what are they doing? And the reason I'm asking is, if there's scrap coming in, that's one kind of operation. If there's a tow business, that may need to operate at all hours, but may have a lot less noise and sound than the junkyard piece. I don't know, but I'm just trying to help you all think about conditions you may want to impose.
Right.
Okay. Any other? All right, Mr. Burley, I believe, maybe Mr. Elroy, did he have a?
Well, as far as your question about whether we can stop the trucks from coming in at 7 or 8 o'clock, I don't think we could do that. When you run a trucking company, you don't know when your calls are coming in. And I couldn't stand up here and say we can stop it at 7 or 8.
We could stop the banging and the cutting and the dragging during the day. Keep it limited to the daytime use, though, as
But
far as
I
chopping
will-
up and.
And I will say this too, we are not the only trucks that drive that road. They put the new road in, but it's still quite a few truck traffic on the old road. And we are not the only trucking company that drives the old road.
The old 501,
So,
the old 501.
the old 501.
Right, right.
They still drive it. And we're not the only trucking company that makes noise. All the trucks have a loud motor.
I would say you would be coming in off of Jim Thorpe because down in Bethel Hills where you operate out of primarily, where you did.
That's right.
And so anyway, anything you're bringing in is likely to hit Jim Thorpe and come in from this new right of way.
But as far as the rollbacks go, like if it's a wreck at night, they'll be coming in from the new 501.
Right, right.
Because that's where the access road is.
Okay.
And that's where Mr. Puryear give us permission to use this, to cross over there.
See, common logic tells me you're not gonna have crews out there at nighttime chopping up, burning torches and dragging cars and slinging them around into the back of the haulers
sir.
to go to the recycle.
No, sir.
I didn't think so.
We stop our work at 5 o'clock, but I'm not gonna say sometimes we don't work over 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, but
But,
not 11:30.
And then, we get the calls at night.
That you can just bring a car in or a truck and park it and then
That's
go
right.
home.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
That's
sir.
all I got.
Anything?
think they just got kind of confused. Your towing company is gonna work 24 hours a day. That's not gonna stop. I think what they're worried about is when you say the word junkyard, they're thinking that you're gonna be out there, 11 o'clock at night working on beat up material and just, banging and moving stuff around. You're not gonna be doing that.
No.
That's what they kind of, I think, got mixed up with.
No, sir.
But we understand that towing is 24 hours a day.
Yes,
That's
sir.
honest.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was who I was speaking to a minute ago. Yes, sir, if you want to.
Oh, I just wanna say
Come.
that, the rollbacks and the towing small vehicles, that's not a big deal. I don't have a problem with that. It's when the big trucks, the big Peterbilts come rolling down a road, which is set at 45 miles an hour, and they're Jake braking it into his driveway. Everybody know what Jake braking is?
Yes, sir, I do.
Really loud. They're obviously going too fast. This is a problem. We have that RV park right across the street from them. There's people in and out of there all the time. It's a mess. That's all.
But I have another thing. Besides,
You can come up, please.
the towing isn't a problem. Like my husband said, the big, but they're hauling big road equipment in and out there, big diggers. It's not just towing. It's not just little cars and stuff. They're big equipment that they're hauling in and out of there. And they put them in there, and then another truck comes in, and they load them on these big flatbeds again, and they roll down and just make all this noise. And it isn't just 7 o'clock or quitting at 5. Like I said, I heard a truck come out of there at 11:30 on Sunday night. And I have to get up at 5 to go to work. That's the big concern. And if they're gonna move the junkyard behind his building or whatever, and away from Boston Road, that's not a problem. There's probably 20 junk cars right now along Boston Road with no fence. And he's been doing it a while. It's not just recently. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
If we get this approved, the cars along the old Boston Road will be moved to the bottom. We do have cars on Old Boston Road right now. But if we get it approved, we'll move those cars to the bottom. And as far as the 7 o'clock goes, we quit work at 5. Our help goes home at 5 unless they on the road. If they on the road, they come in after hours. And that's what, I didn't mean truck drivers quit driving at 5 o'clock. But the people work around the shop and work here and there, they quit around 5 o'clock, maybe sometimes 7 or 8, but most of the time 5 o'clock. But now, I didn't say the truck drivers quit at 5 o'clock. The truck drivers come in and out.
But they won't be coming in off of old 501 to deliver to the junkyard that's on the backside of the property.
No, the big trucks will probably come in off the old 501. But the rollbacks would come in late at night off of the new 501.
I don't see a road that takes you from there to there.
And really, I mean, I can't stand up here and say, it's 2 or 3 days a week that we come in, the big trucks come in real late. I can't say that, but it's not every day. It's not every day they come in late at night.
I don't know why, I just find it more logical for them to come in off Jim Thorpe instead of
And
on
like,
Boston Road.
and like I say too, if you live on the road, and I live on the road with a lot of truck traffic, it's gonna be noise. If you live on a road with truck traffic, it's gonna be noise. It's not gonna be just the trucks your neighbor has, it's gonna be trucks coming up and down the road all the time. And it's gonna be different.
I live right down the
comments.
street here. You'd be shocked, the big trucks coming down this street here, running 40, 45 mile an hour. That's been my number one complaint for 20 years, is I can't get them to drop speed limit though. So,
Can I say something?
Yes, sir,
One
please.
of- Just one of my concerns is from an environmental standpoint, with the cars. And I'm really, when we talk about salvage, junk cars and all that, it's what may be, could be leaking from those cars or what have you when you get them. And that getting in oil, getting into the ground and then getting into the stream. I don't, my recommendation is that if this goes forth, is that we certainly need to check that ground periodically for any contamination or any spills or any stormwater issues. And that's my concern with it all is, again, is the environmental part of it. That's all I
You
gotta
know,
say.
the state periodically checks junkyards, correct? I would guess so,
If there's a specific, what they call maintenance and monitoring program, for soil contamination, sometimes it's related to a brownfield, sometimes not. They'll put it on a list for, usually they'll work with local jurisdictions like us to get the report to send to them for review. So we did not put a condition in this report for maintenance and monitoring annually for that, but could be a
But
consideration.
it could be.
It could be if the applicant agrees to do that, because it will be a cost to them. I mean, it's a business decision, and if they don't agree to do something like that, that's part of the decision here today too, because it is the cost of operating a business if you're going to do something environmentally.
What's the cost estimated?
It'll be a few $100s annually to a consultant.
Could it be done, say, every 2 years, or what's reasonable? What do you?
Usually, I mean, if something gets into the groundwater, you want to know it sooner than later because it affects domestic drinking wells. So annually usually is the best policy.
Okay.
And it can be just programmed in.
So think about that then. Do we want to add a stipulation in there related to any of this? Mr. Attorney, what may be the legal language?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to directly answer your question, Mr. Chairman, but I think what the board needs to think about is, are there conditions you want to add? And if the applicant is unwilling or unable to accept them, would you then deny the permit on that basis? So conditions I'm hearing have been discussed are possible more stringent screening standards, higher fence, possibly limiting the total site area where the junk salvage operation could be located, possibly some annual environmental monitoring. And I'd heard, I think it was Mr. Palmer, it might have been Mr. Sims, make mention about maintenance of the access road, although I don't know that that was ever really discussed in any way. So those are the things I've heard. I think if you all want to impose any of them, that's exactly what the discussion time this process is for you all to kind of talk through what you think is workable and also talk with the applicant in that regard.
Okay, so we do have 3 things there. Excuse me, the screening height, what do you think there? What's reasonable and acceptable?
10 foot.
10-foot height. That would be advisable. Then the environmental,
Mr. Chairman, do we need to come out of the public hearing first?
we still,
I think you can. At this point,
Can,
the
but-
reason to stay in public hearing would be if you're expecting significant more testimony. Now, what I would say also is during the public hearing is the only time you could receive more testimony from citizens or other witnesses.
I have another concern about rodents. There are children in that RV park across the street. And usually junkyards bring rats and mice, and we know that from Craig Ford's place down the street. He has, rents out containers for trash, and his place is inundated with mice. And so what concern of rodents, and we already have possum coming through. Of course, it's wild back there, so we have deer all the time, but they don't seem to ever go away. You know, and bringing junk cars will bring more rodents to the area. Concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, so we can come out of this and then discuss adding.
Yes, sir, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yes,
And
sir.
then,
Okay.
just to be clear, if the board continues to have questions, Mr. Bowley or other people can come forward to answer them as you need, even
Okay.
if you've closed the hearing, sir.
All right, do we have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Motion to close the hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none, motion carried. So item number 4 is consideration to either grant or deny the request as per the SUP 0124 request. So what is the recommendation of the board?
I think we need to implement these policies we've spoken
Well,
about.
we get the motion and then we discuss and add, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
What I'd recommend, I'd actually go with, I believe it
Okay.
was Mr. Sims, Mr. Palmer speaking. I would discuss your conditions first,
All right.
because I think that affects
Go
what
ahead,
your
sir.
final decision would be.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just going back 3 pages. I would like to see the fence installed to keep the view off of surrounding properties. I would like to see the yearly environmental impact study, drilling, whatever way they do, test the water in the creek. I still can't get it in my brain why you got a house in the middle of this lot and the trucks are coming in here and the junkyard's on the backside of the property where you got a road coming in the backside. Why is that not used on the backside instead of the front? And you don't even have a road there, it's yard. So, my recommendation on that end is bring everything in off of Jim Thorpe Highway. That's just my thoughts, my 3 cents worth. And I'd like to make a motion on that.
And if I may, Mr. Palmer, not to shut you down, but I'd suggest there be more discussion. Let the
Okay.
board reach some consensus, and then you all can make a motion once the board's
Right.
reached some consensus.
The consensus item, maybe first, would be the fence height. Everybody in agreement there?
I can raise it to 10 foot.
Okay. And then the environmental requirement of annual testing. And does it need to be specific to your department or state compliance? Is it county only?
We could receive the annual maintenance and monitoring soil testing report and provide a copy to DEQ and DW, North Carolina Department of Water Resources, DWR.
Thank you, sir. All right, then the road.
I don't think you can, I think it's a business, that's outside of our scope on that, I believe. That's why. Outside of our scope with that.
Yes. We've got a general consensus here, board members, for those 2 items, screening and environmental checks. Any other questions or? Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the creek. We talked about a creek. Where's that creek located at? It's close to this property. I'm trying to find it here. I'm trying to see where it's at.
On your aerial, it's on, it starts over by where the green. Thank you. Starts over here in this wooded area.
Yes.
And it follows around like this. And this is the high side of the property topographically. Let me see if I can show you on the site plan. I believe they put topo on there.
Pretty good.
Not so much, but you can sort of see the creek runs along this way and then it outfalls this way past this salvage area here. And the applicant since built a pond next to where the salvage area is, right here.
So will the runoff go to the pond?
Yes, sir.
So would there not, I know you're talking about doing soil sampling, but would there not be stormwater sampling that can be done, or how's that?
There could be the annual stormwater report as well. This is not in the Neuse Basin, so we don't have that requirement to supply us with that report, but.
I mean, I have to, and I have to report, of course, my company's not is bigger than this, but I have to report on a quarterly basis stormwater testing.
Yes, sir.
And I think if we've got the possibility of contamination to the pond from stormwater runoff, I think we need to have stormwater testing.
Or how about a combination report that's just an environmental assessment? It would
Which
cover
would be-
both soil and water quality.
Yes.
It'd be comprehensive
Right.
in one report. And then the pond is right there, the new pond. I don't think you see it on the aerial, but it's since been dug right here. And then the creek is here.
Okay. Then one remaining thing, the comment about restricting that area to 1 acre or whatever was said to be. Was that?
We didn't have that surveyed out because the material is already there. So we, I'm sorry, one more time for the PowerPoint. Thank you. So the material is already right here, and I could measure that out, but there's material that's over on the per year property as well, so it'll be brought back into here, and then the creek is right here, so I'm approximating that's about an acre right here where it's gonna be constrained.
Okay. Any discussion here, board members? Do you want to enter that into this agreement here? No restrictions? Okay.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Do we ask the homeowner, the landowner now about these restrictions? We go ahead and make a motion, put them in place, and then determine whether or not he wants to do that or not?
I think the better approach is to ask the property owner or the applicant if they would agree to these conditions, because if they don't, then that's part of your consideration.
Yeah, Mr. Brandon?
Now, what was the recommendations for us to do?
One was the screen, I'll let
10-foot screen, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, as I understood, what the board has proposed is to increase the fence requirement from 6 feet to 10 feet, and then also to have an annual monitoring requirement. Essentially, you'd hire an environmental consultant, Mr. Bowie, if I'm misstating this, just jump in, an environmental consultant to prepare an annual report that looks at water and soil quality.
Yes, sir, we fine with that.
Is there a form that he has to sign?
What you could do is just have the requirement be that it's submitted as required by the planning department. And then they can interface with the state, and if the state has a specific form or what have you, Mr. Bowley can get that to Brandon Recker.
So, the fence, so are you saying 10-foot fence, or 8 foot, or what?
I heard a 10-foot fence.
Okay, does the barbed wire we're gonna put around the top of it, does that consist of the 10-foot too?
I wouldn't include that, no.
6 foot is it 6 or 8 that's standard pretty much?
6 is what's recommended.
6 is what's recommended.
Okay, and so we're talking more than that, of course. I don't know that the wire at the top.
I understood the fence height to really be about screening and visual, not so much security. So I would think that the barbed wire would not be part of that, if that's what the board is going for.
I mean, if we have to put a 10-foot fence up, we will.
Well, that's the consensus here, the general consensus and the, going forward, so those would be the two things that we would add.
I don't think it's, but one house can see that junkyard from the road, when the trees, when the leaves are on the trees. That junkyard is pretty much down in the bottom.
But the surrounding property, what is that zone? Is it residential? Or is it? Yeah, so consideration for future possibly, but, Okay.
I'm sorry, rural conservation, so.
Yeah, which, yeah,
But we'll put the 10-foot fence up.
all right, thank you. Any other points for consideration? Okay, we're ready for a vote? We in order?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion then for approval with the additions?
Chairman Powell, I'd like to make a motion to approve SUP 01-24, salvage operation for the Brandon property.
And Mr. Palmer, if I may, just so that the record is clear, it's with staff's recommended conditions and the 2 additional conditions that the board has discussed. Is that correct?
Got it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. This time in our meeting, we have a 10-minute period set aside for public comment. And again, we have 10 minutes. I don't know how many speakers do we
We have 3 individuals.
About 3 minutes apiece, then we'd be okay with that. And please remember, your comments are addressed to the board, not individual board members. And we expect proper decorum as we go through these public comments. So, Madam Clerk, who is our first speaker?
First speaker is Andrea Childers, and IT. Can you please set the timer for 3 minutes?
If the board is okay, Katie would like to go before me, and then I would like to speak if that's okay with the board.
That's okay, I'm fine with
Okay,
that. So.
Ms. Moore.
She walked a little bit faster than you, so she signed up first.
What's the name?
This is Katie Moore,
Spell it, please. Spell it.
Katie Moore, Moore.
Good morning,
Morning.
Commissioners. How are y'all doing?
Fine.
I'll wait until I've got my time up. Should I go or?
I've instructed IT to please set the timer for 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Katie Moore. I'm a resident of Person County. I live on North Lamar Street. I am here to request that the board reverse their zoning decision for the Mariah Energy Center or call for an environmental impact statement, which has not happened and will not be required of Dominion Energy currently. I have a whole comment prepared, but I just want to start by saying I think I certainly got emotional in the last discussion, as did I think others, and I want to be clear, I meant no disrespect to y'all or to the applicant and the folks who came out to speak about it. I thought that was actually a very thoughtful, considered, caring discussion of what it is to live next to an industrial facility, albeit a much smaller one than we're talking about with Dominion Energy. What made me emotional is that y'all did not have that discussion about Dominion Energy. The fact that you want to require ground and water testing of this facility, I think is wonderful. In fact, I think there should be ground and water testing and air testing, if you want to make it truly comprehensive, of a lot of facilities in Person County, because everyone deserves to live in a safe and clean environment that is as peaceful as it can be. Y'all know this. You live here. People move up here for that. That's why I moved here. I love it here. The issue that I have is that doing that piecemeal for small facilities doesn't make a bit of sense, and it certainly does not make sense to do that for a small operation when you are not willing to press for that from a company that is much larger and from a facility that has a much, much larger impact than this junkyard that y'all were just discussing. It makes me feel like I'm losing my mind, if I'm being honest. So I just wanted to say that first. And again, my call is for y'all, which you have the power to do, to ask for an environmental impact statement, which again has not happened and will not happen if y'all don't request it. You were talking about creeks that have impact. If you look at Dominion's plan, which I hope that y'all have, you should have because you approved it, it is right. They did everything they could to shoehorn it so they're not touching a creek or a pond. There are creeks that are going to be impacted by this facility. Y'all know that. You can call for an environmental impact assessment, a comprehensive one, as you just did, and you should. Okay, now we'll get into what I actually wrote down before I showed up to the meeting. I will just say I've spent all week reading over Dominion's air permit application. That is my expertise professionally. I hope that y'all have reviewed it as well. It does not make a bit of sense to me what they wrote in that application. One thing I want to call out specifically is that they have said that they are not required to write and maintain a risk management plan, which is a requirement of the Clean Air Act. If y'all don't know what a risk management plan is, you can imagine what it is from the words. It is a plan that a facility writes when they're storing hazardous waste facility. Can I have a couple more minutes, y'all? Okay. And it does things like it tells the neighbors what's being stored on the facility. It says if there's an accident, this is how we're gonna deal with it. They say that they're not required to do that, and it's ridiculous. They need to have a risk management plan. Just within the last couple of weeks, when they've started construction on the facility, which has happened, a community member said that they had to wait 20 minutes on the road because Dominion, or the construction company that's building it, had activities that were blocking the road. That is a huge inconvenience if you're just trying to get where you're going. Imagine if it had been an ambulance, a fire truck. Those are the sorts of things that are going to happen when they're constructing this facility and when it's being operated. Sorry, I'm much more emotional than I anticipated that I was going to be. The other thing that I want to say is that this facility, the proposed facility that Dominion talks about, says that they're going to have 12 jobs maybe. Those are not going to go to Person County residents. As y'all know, GKN just announced layoffs of 247 Person County residents. I want to understand how you think that this facility actually benefits Person County, because it's not bringing in jobs, it's not bringing in tax money, it's certainly not bringing in gas, and it's causing a lot of environmental harm. So I will stop there. But I think you've heard from a lot of folks for months and months that no one likes this facility, that we have real concerns, and you just addressed many of those concerns for the previous section. I would ask that you do the same for this facility. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Andrea Childers.
My name is Andrea Childers, and I've lived in Person County for 31 years. I just sat here and listened to you gentlemen, this board, give more consideration to a 1 acre salvage facility than you gave to a 50 million gallon bomb that you are putting 2,300 feet from my house. Shame on each and every one of you for doing so. I have a million things to say like Katie, and I would also like to point out that it's funny when people that come to speak about Dominion Energy and NOMAC are held to very strict regulations, but I watched people address the board back and forth today with no mention. But if we did that, we would be asked to leave this room. First, I'd like to thank Commissioner Powell for finding and giving Dominion Energy the hundreds of questions that residents of Southeast Person County submitted to this board on November 6th and again on December 4th in 2023. I would first like to present, when I first presented these questions to the board, it was along with a plea to not to rezone the 485 acres in our community until we could find out the answers to these questions. I asked the board to please slow down, to take a breath, and to find the answers before you rezoned 485 rural acres to heavy industrial. And you did not do that. It appears that the board in good faith is now trying to find the answers to these questions, so it would be remiss of me not to request the board reverse that decision. Finally, as a resident of Person County, I feel it is imperative that an environmental impact study be done along with a stormwater runoff policy. There's a creek that borders my property that comes up from that mountain right down into my home. We need to do a stormwater runoff policy before you allow Dominion Energy to start construction of storage facility. I found it very interesting that Mr. Bowling's comments when introducing several things today talked about harmony within the surrounding areas, talked about value of people's property. But yet, when you're planning on placing a $50 million gallon bomb 2,300 feet from my house, nobody gave any concerns about the value of my property decreasing. Why is it that a 1 acre salvage yard is getting more attention and more concern than a 50 million gallon bomb? Shame on all of you for doing this to us. Shame on you.
Thank you. Clerk?
Next speaker we have is Teresa Aarons.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Aarons. I live at 108 Elderberry Lane in Rougemont. There were several of you that commented that you visited the Cary plant of Dominion Energy and felt confident that what they do there will work for us here in Person County. That's an 11 million gallon facility. We're building a facility 5 times that. So to compare that, it'd be like a toddler to an adult. So can you imagine a toddler compared to this large 62-year-old woman? There's no comparison. You're looking at apples to mangoes. Have you ever disagreed with your loved one? And how did you resolve it? Did you give each other the silent treatment? Did you maybe ignore them? Not answer them when they asked you questions? How did that go if you did? We're your significant others. We're your loved ones. We're your people. We need to hear from you. People at NOMAC have asked you repeatedly, sit down with us, explain to us why you've chosen to do what you've done. You've never responded. Some of you have, to say no to us. We're asking, explain to us why you're doing what you're doing. The other thing, and the last thing, is that you, this group, has the power to fix this. You can make Person County fabulous. You can make it a destination. You can make it a place that we're all going to be proud to live in. You all can do that. You can stop this. You can slow it down. You can make sure that our water and our air will stay clean. You can make sure that they do it right. If you can't stop it, you don't want to stop it, make it right. Please, for all of us. We're begging you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our public comment section.
Thank you. All right, item number 5 on the agenda is discussion, adjustment, and approval of the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion for approval. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None, motion carried. New business, item number 6, via health update. Mr. Elliott Clark. Thank you for your patience.
Nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Shifting gears a little bit. Again, my name's Elliott Clark. Via Health is the organization that I represent. In front of you, I do have a PowerPoint. If we could bring, perfect. So before you, you have a printout. There is one correction that as I was reviewing it over the weekend that I'll note as we go forward, and if we need to, I can resubmit that to you guys. It's a simple little typo, but it does change a figure as regards to Medicaid expansion numbers. So anyway, thank you so much. Again, VIA Health is our organization. I'd first like to recognize and appreciate Chairman Powell's service to our regional board, and our health director, Janet Clayton, for her service to our regional board. We're very grateful for the time and energy to help advise on how we operate. Which really just kind of leads us into our mission. Who VIA Health is, first and foremost, is an organization that exists under statute. We view ourselves as a public entity that's responsible for managing all of our tax dollars to make sure that some of the most vulnerable and marginalized members of our population are served, and that's folks that live with mental illness, intellectual developmental disabilities, and substance use disorders. Our mission, other than serving that population, is to evolve how we serve that population. Historically, and we'll talk a little bit about this further in the presentation, but the state of North Carolina, as you guys probably well know, is constantly transforming Medicaid, and one of those areas that we're transforming is making sure that we can cover the whole person. So that means instead of just covering behavioral health for folks in that special population, that we can make sure that we incentivize whole person care. That means their primary care, their pharmacy benefits, even transportation services to medical appointments. Those are things that we want to be housed within the same health plan so that folks don't have to work with multiple entities on achieving health and wellness. So to that degree, we'll, within this presentation, we'll talk through a couple of state updates. I'll give some local updates on some initiatives and some areas of focus that we have. And then I'll note specifically a little bit of work around the foster care population and our support to DSS. And then give you a couple of data points that will reflect activity in Person County. So Medicaid expansion is positively impacting our members specifically. Most of our folks that we serve that are within this population were already on Medicaid. We're seeing about a 10% increase across the board in our membership. But keep in mind, we cover some of the highest cost, most significant need within mental health. Folks that need a very basic level of behavioral health care are being served under commercial or standard plans, as the state calls it. So here comes the correction. So expansion in North Carolina has to date added 385,000 members, not 835,000. The state originally projected, about 500,000 to 600,000, and so that's important to note. In Person County, to date, out of that number, about 1,500 have been added under expansion. If you're interested, there's a really great dashboard on the DHHS website, Medicaid expansion dashboard, that allows you to track county by county what those numbers are looking like. And they upload those and refresh those every month, first week of every month. Those services that will include primary care and whole person health, as I mentioned, will go live under our purview on July 1st of this year. That's the first date where we'll start covering claims and contracts for providers that offer not just the mental health therapies, but that also offer some of the primary physical health services that are provided to those members within that population. And we're looking good. VIA is leading the state as far as tailored plan readiness, has been for a good while. Our physical health network is up to speed. We've upgraded our claims system, our care management platforms, and everything's looking good for us to be able to go live. I mentioned there's another component, two components that'll be unique to a health plan like ours, and that's managing the non-emergent medical transportation. So we'll be able to use Medicaid dollars and state dollars to further incentivize helping folks actually connect with care on a very logistical level. Transportation's been a big barrier for our folks for forever. And then the other component is pharmacy benefits to make sure that their coverage on that level is specific to what their needs are in psychiatric care and those services. We have now, since the last budget was passed, one of the largest investments in mental health services the state's ever seen. Expansion in total offered $1.4 billion over those 2 years. But within, specific to this population, you know, those 2 years are split out, $625 million for the first fiscal year and $838 million for next fiscal year. 80 million of those dollars have specifically been invested to improve our crisis system of care. And I'm going to take some time, because we've done a lot of work within Person County over the last year to specifically address our crisis continuum. I'll talk specifically about what those new programs look like here in this county, but just know that in years past, organizations like ours have always been, really underwater with trying to utilize state funds and address folks that do not have Medicaid to make sure that they are covered. Those are called single stream funds, and large in part, for the first time, we've seen a lot of stabilizing factors from our state to help address that population. So to that effect, we did submit some bids to expand facility-based crisis capacity in this region. Two of the closest programs that will impact Person County and improve those services are an investment in Alamance County and in Vance County that will expand that facility capacity. But we'll spend a little bit more time. Those are future projects that are, using this capital improvement to help improve that type of access. We'll spend some time talking about what we have already done here to date here in just a moment. I'll go through this kind of briefly. You guys are probably used to commercial plans often have as part of their portfolio value-added services. VIA will be no different as a whole person health plan. These are just some of the value-added services that we'll offer beginning in July that will help address some of the social determinants of health needs that we have, like education, and also just some very just kind of member benefits that will help improve overall health, whether it's something like meal delivery or non-medical transportation to employment, if that type of thing is approved. Those are benefits. Those are value-added benefits that our members will receive when we go live as a tailored plan. And there's a little website there if you're curious about what those benefits are. Getting back a little bit to the design and some of the transformation that's happened in the state, as of February of this year, you've had a consolidation of managed care organizations in the state. We had 7 previously, and in the last merger of Sand Hills and Trillium, you see Trillium in green to the east. Sand Hills was to the west of the Piedmont. This is what the current landscape looks like. You'll see VIA's catchment in blue. Our niche and our area of specialty maintains to be rural health, but you can see kind of at least the geographic split there. Important to note, all of these health plans have a regional model of operation. So you're not talking about all decisions, all operations being centralized outside of the community. The region that I oversee is Vance, Granville, Franklin, and Person County. So we do so, and we're governed based on a regional model, not a catchment-wide model. All right, so thinking about what things look like right here in Person County, first and foremost, an area of focus that we've had within our crisis system improvements. We've had a new mobile crisis team that's been active here in Person County since May. That's RHA Health Services. Freedom House is also continuing to offer mobile crisis as well. But one of the things that we've added, and we're just at the 6-month mark, is a new clinic over off Weeks Drive. That's RHA Health Services. Some of you guys may remember the opening of that facility in September. They are now fully staffed and operating very well. They operate an open access model, which means you don't have to have an appointment. You can walk right in, get an assessment, and get linked to treatment. That mobile crisis team has aligned with that office so that anybody that comes through that needs to be followed up in the community, be it mobile crisis, has that service under that roof. One of the areas that we've really seen improve recently with the opening of that clinic, and will actually be an addition in the coming months, is a co-responder model. I have to give a shout out and support to local law enforcement in this community. I honestly, personally, I've been just very pleasantly surprised, speaking broadly, and very encouraged by the support and buy-in from our Sheriff's Department and Roxborough Police Department in prioritizing this population, just helping to figure out how we better connect people with care that are in crisis that they wind up seeing on the street. They've endorsed, and also, obviously, I can't leave out our EMS department. The things that Tom has put together and supported for us, I think has been a great service to this community, and good plans to come, I might add, there. So within that being said, there's a co-responding model that we have just been awarded a grant through the Bipartisan Safer Community Act grant, which will provide 2 full-time employees that will be co-responders that are aligned with the police department and the sheriff's department. And essentially what that will mean is that they can be dispatched along with law enforcement, somebody that is a clinician that can help de-escalate the situation and further link them with care, and hopefully avoid things like unnecessary involuntary commitments or involvement in the criminal justice system, basically. That grant was just announced, 2 weeks ago, I think. That's brand new, so we're very excited about that particular grant and service to the area. Another added program that we have in the works is expanding our network for folks that are dealing with opioid use disorder. And I know this can be kind of a tricky topic sometimes. I serve on our opioid advisory committee. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out history and what things have looked like and perception versus what things could look like and how we could better connect that population to care, because it's very much still in a crisis mode. We do have, and we are partnering with a clinic that's based out of Durham, Morse Clinic, that operates an opioid treatment program. And will offer some services that have up to this point not been available in Person County, that folks have had to travel across county lines to receive. That's not just methadone. Methadone, I know, sometimes carries its own historical perspective on, how of its efficacy. The key to that program is linkage to outpatient treatment. It's therapy. It's counseling. It's lifestyle change. It's not just a medication. So those types of services, that program is what we're looking forward to being set up. And Morse Clinic has a partnership with Person Memorial around some space to develop that type of a program. So I want you guys to know that you've got our commitment and our providers' commitment to make sure that programs like that are successful. Another point that I'll make is our partnership with Person County Schools. We've had a school-based mental health provider aligned with that school district. I will not take full credit for that and give a lot of credit to our school district here around prioritizing that, but we make sure that the contract that exists with that provider that comes into the school is solid. We're also helping the school district pursue a grant through the Association of Maternal and Child Health to form a program that will offer a universal screening tool, therapy, and prevention services within the schools, which is much needed. It's very difficult for families to organize their schedules and get their kiddos to counseling if that's what's needed after hours, and outside of school. Sometimes those interventions can be done in tandem with the academic side. And then just wanted to highlight our support with the Department of Social Services. We maintain our embedded care manager, full-time care manager with that department, and we've been very focused on trying to enhance that service continuum. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail here in a moment about Pathways to Permanency Project and Adventure Awaits, a foster family recruitment project. So briefly, just to kind of, rehash, we've had a 2-year project that actually wraps up this month. So the next time I come before you, I expect to have a little bit more of outcomes-driven data around what we've accomplished within this project. But essentially, we've introduced trainings and kind of collaborative efforts with DSS to address a few things. One, making sure that there is a cleaner path between our clinical role and making clinical recommendations for therapy versus an urgency to place youth. So making sure that there's a shared understanding and common language there has been definitely a theme within this project. But ultimately, we want to make sure that there's a lens towards permanency. After placement, to make sure that we've got wraparound services for youth, which is still a great need in this county. We don't have enough providers specifically focused on youth in this county, and that's the case in many areas across the state. But those are going to be some high priority areas for us going forward, and making sure that obviously it's accessible to that population. That's just a brief overview of that kind of flow diagram that you just saw there. But one point that I will mention on here is it's very data-driven. Part of what we've tried to make sure we accomplish is that we have a constant kind of awareness around what the need is on a local level versus what kinds of additions we're adding to our network. And again, just wanted to make sure I introduced you guys to this concept so that hopefully we can review some impactful outcomes data once this project wraps up and we get that data. All right, on a little bit of a lighter note, spring is in the air, and it's been beautiful, but I'll tell you, it involves a lot of outdoor activities, and I'm glad my voice has held up today. Pollen is starting to kick in and affect all of us, but we've been very active out and about. This is a great time of year for us to get out, engage with people, talk about what we do, be there for questions in real time. So just wanted to highlight a few events that we've got coming up where you'll see Vaya's presence. One recently we did was a pastor's lunch and learn, an initiative that we've got going on, and really because of local interest, is a network of churches that very commonly see mental health types of concerns present in their congregation. So one of the things we wanted to make sure we did is bring pastors around the table, bring community organizations around the table, talk about what we have, talk about what we don't have, so that there can be a conduit between the faith base and treatment. A lot of times there's a breakdown there. A lot of times there's a lot of hesitancy and reservation. So just having those conversations is important. We had a great turnout on March 12th for that event. And we'll be present for the upcoming Community Health Day on March 30th and the Person County Fam Fest on April 13th. So if you see folks, if you participate in those, just know that conversations around behavioral health, some of those difficult topics, we're going to be out there and present and out in the open. A couple of points before I wrap up. I know I've been talking a little bit here. Is a couple of data marks. We have currently 64 members in Person County on the innovations waiver. That again is specific to individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities. Every year the state tries to add a little bit more to that. With the legislature controls the amount of waiver slots that are allocated across the state. But we have 59 people on the registry of unmet needs. Just to give you guys a frame of reference, there's over 15,000 families across the state of North Carolina that are on the wait list still. And the state of North Carolina, although it was fantastic to see growth, added 350 new slots this year. So we've got still just an enormous need for families that are supporting loved ones or people that are living with intellectual developmental disabilities that need more services. And then just a brief snapshot on some of our volume that we've seen, at least within our membership. This is not comprehensive of everybody that walks into the emergency department by any means. These are simply folks that are covered by VIA that do. Saw a little bit of an uptick in readmissions within 30 days in Q4 of last fiscal year. starting to see that improve a little bit through Q1. I will say that largely, we've seen improvements for folks not readmitting because of services like mobile crisis, services like that walk-in clinic. When as people get used to knowing that that's an alternative, that's a place you can go instead of having to go to the emergency room, we're expecting to see those numbers continue to improve. So I will be quiet unless you have questions. I would much appreciate questions if you do.
Board member questions, comments, anybody?
Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Well, we thank you. Elliot is one that keeps in constant contact with me and us here in the county, and that's a big thing. Mental health issues typically are out of sight, out of mind for most of us, and if we don't experience it, we don't pay a lot of attention to it. But take a look at the data and the numbers there that you just talked about. And the catchment area now for Region 4 is?
Yeah, so it's still the 4, well, Rockingham was added.
Mhm.
That was a point that I neglected to mention. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yep.
In that last consolidation, Rockingham was added, so we now have 10 counties in that region, 32
And
counties total.
By your total counties, is it
32.
32?
Correct.
And pretty much $1 billion operation.
Let's do it.
So being on that board is not for the faint of heart, because those are big numbers, but when it comes down to individual needs, that's what we're about here today, and that's person counted. That's who we see and know, and people that we have associations with and have great concern for. I commend Via for deciding to go with the RHA facility on Weeks Drive. That was a long time coming.
Sure.
And done very well. That building was upfitted to suit the needs of individuals on a walk-in service type thing. So you don't have to go through hoops to get the needed service. You can go there, and I highly recommend that people pay attention to that location and the ability to gain their services there. I think it's a great asset, and so there are lots of needs here, and I hate to say a lot of those are within schools.
Sure.
With their children. That's the day and age we live in, and I for one appreciate your efforts there. But
Thank you.
Thank you for communicating with this board and keeping us updated on good things happening in Via.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of praise goes to our providers. We don't do anything without them. You know, people like Person Industries, Person County Group Homes, RHA, Freedom House, people that have been here for a while. We try to make sure they're supported.
Looking at your priority areas of focus and key partners, and, you know, I'm looking at that, all those look good, and things we need. Opiate use disorder. Opiates are it's a big problem.
Yes.
And we think it's in the big cities, but it's right here in Person County.
Oh, yeah.
And we see people, we hear of kids, adults, ODing and dying from opiate and from fentanyl and those things. So I think it's very important we have that program and do what we can to give them help and try to, again, work with them to get them off the opiates. And as you said, mental illness is very big here in our state and also here in Person County. And a lot of things that happen that are not very good in our state and in this nation, you usually wind up finding that there was some mental illness in some of those situations.
That's right.
And if it had been caught early and some things could have been done, it might would have prevented those situations from happening. So very important, and appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate your comment.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you. Look forward to
Thank you.
seeing
Thank you for your
soon.
time. Yes, sir.
That's information only, so we move along to item number 7 on the agenda, reimbursement resolution for 2024 limited obligation bonds. Ms. Weinberg. Good to see
Good
you.
morning,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Morning.
I am presenting what we call a reimbursement resolution this morning that authorizes the county to advance funds to pay the initial cost of certain projects and reimburse itself with the proceeds of tax-exempt limited obligation bonds, or LOBs for short, to be executed and delivered later in the calendar year. These certain projects are defined as follows: the acquisition of a building and property for use by the county's Human Services Departments, the acquisition of a building and property for use by Piedmont Community College, the renovation, expansion, and equipment upgrades at the Person County Recycling Center, and the re-roofing construction for South Elementary School. This resolution states the county's intention to reimburse itself for expenditures incurred and paid by the county on or after 60 days prior to the date of this resolution's adoption from the proceeds of the 2024 LOBs in an amount not to exceed $21 million. It also verifies that the county will comply with the appropriate Treasury and Internal Revenue codes that govern this transaction. The resolution also designates and authorizes certain county officials to act on behalf of the county in the determination and accounting of all expenditures incurred and paid in connection with these projects from this prior 60-day window until the issuance date of these bonds. And finally, it states that the resolution is effective upon its passage by the board. Unless you have any questions, it is our current recommendation that the board approve this resolution as presented.
Questions, board members?
Who are the certain officials acting on behalf of the county?
That would be anybody that has to execute documents associated with this transaction, which would be myself, the county manager, the county attorney, and that's roughly it for the county side. Mhm.
Any other questions? Good job.
All right. Well, you got to prove it first.
Well, you got us to this point. Good job.
Well, thank you.
Okay. No other questions. Do we have a motion related to this request?
Chair, I make a motion that we approve the reimbursement resolution as presented.
Have a motion on the floor. Further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Okay, there you go. Thank you. And item number 8 on the agenda is options for evaluation of social services. Mr. Brian Hart.
Good morning.
Manager, thank you.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
So the Board of Commissioners requested options for independent consulting services to conduct an evaluation of the Department of Social Services. In your board packet, attached is a summary of 2 proposals that we've received in response to a scope of work document that was provided to 2 independent consultant agencies. The first was Allies for Outcomes, and in an effort to reduce anticipated costs associated with their original proposal, Allies for Outcomes could increase the time frame of their original proposal from 6 months to 8 months. This would result in an early April start date and an end date of late November. The maximum total budget for the 8-month proposal is $115,000 approximately. This represents a reduction from the 6-month proposal, which originally had a maximum budget of $166,000 approximately. In order to reduce those costs, Allies for Outcomes has indicated that they may use fewer subject matter experts from their team. The other proposal received was from CCR Consulting. CCR Consulting indicated that they could reduce the length of time of their consulting services from 12 months to 9 months if it pleases the board and the county manager's office. That would result in an early April start date as well, but it would culminate in mid-December. In this scenario, CCR indicated that they would likely involve an additional subject matter expert from their team in order to perform the same quality of work in a condensed amount of time. As a result, the overall cost of their proposal would essentially remain the same, which was originally quoted as approximately $86,000. CCR also indicated that a final project plan would be developed in consultation with the board and/or manager's office. So those summaries have been previously provided to you, both in the packet from March 4th and in the one before you today. That kind of concludes the update that I have for you at this time. If you all have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
How much did
Go
you
ahead,
say the
sir.
state reimburse?
The state would reimburse this at approximately 45%, depending upon, which option we went with. Obviously, that would represent different totals, but approximately 45% of this could be reimbursable.
I don't know if I asked you this last time, but do you have a preference on either one of these?
Based upon the dialogue, the conversations that I've had with them, as well as having had an opportunity to speak with other counties, CCR is our recommendation at this time.
Any other comments? And I would thank you for that comment. And as previously stated, I think the CCR does cover what this board is looking for, and it does come at a much more reasonable price tag. And the 45% would be covered, and then the remaining from DSS fund balance.
That's my understanding. That would be our preference and our mode of paying for it.
To our budget. Any other comments, manager?
I agree with Brian's recommendation to go with CCR Consulting, and as he stated, the consultant, whoever is chosen, will work with the board, who will be serving as the Consolidated Human Services Board, and with staff to develop that final scope of work for their services. So you may want to go ahead and indicate if you're looking for, if you do go with CCR, if you're looking for that 12-month time frame where the support is extended, it takes a little bit longer to work through the process, or if you're looking for that 9 months, April to December engagement, so we can use that as a starting point for that scope of work as we work to develop that with them. Again, the pricing is about the same. They'll just put some more resources in for that shorter period of time in order to accomplish the work by December.
Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion related to the request?
Make a motion that we go with CCR.
Are we, which option, are we doing 12 or 9?
Oh, excuse me.
Well, that's still.
I mean, that was the
We
discussion.
can have the motion, we can have the discussion
Okay.
still, yeah.
I think we agree going with CCR. I just, if the cost is gonna be the same between a 9 and 12, do you wanna do the 12, or is the 12 gonna be more extensive, or is it, I know you said more resources had to go into the 9.
If I picked up on that, they're gonna have one less person if they went with the 9, is that correct? Or?
No, so what they would likely do with CCR, they would likely add an additional person in order to produce the same quality of work in a shorter or condensed time frame. I will, for the purposes of this conversation, to address your question, CCR has indicated that they'd even prefer perhaps a 12-month period because they believe that the work is of such a great magnitude that it is best that we take our time with this. So they would not want to rush it. But they are agreeable to a condensed time frame if that is what we collectively believe is best.
Further discussion?
I certainly don't think we need to put a speed bump in front of them. I think we need to go with 12.
I was just going to add that this will also involve quite a bit of staff time, DSS staff time to work through this process with the consultant. I mean, it will be a benefit for everyone involved, but having it extended may just take some of the pressure off in terms of what will be involved in this engagement for our staff who are already quite busy with their regular duties.
Okay, any other?
Make a motion?
We ready?
I'd like to make a motion that we proceed by choosing CCR for our consultant over the DSS department.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
For the 12-month period.
12-month period.
12-month period.
Yeah. All right, all in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, motion carried, thank you. Appreciate that. And item number 9 on the agenda is options for fleet management. Manager Kathy.
I would actually like to turn this one over to our General Services Director, Ray Fouché, who had a change of plans and is here this morning. So he is prepared to present this topic to you.
That's a bright red.
Yeah.
It's beautiful though, I love it.
Thank you.
I love
mean,
it.
we don't have many chances to really participate and show it, so today was a good day. Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for being attentive to this program. In your last commission meeting, you heard an extensive presentation from Enterprise Corporation, and staff basically supported most of their comments, and certainly it was positive for all of us. But rightly so, you guys asked for more information, more options, you know, what's available out there. So I made as best effort I could to give you some comparable data. We selected 6 companies other than Enterprise, and we selected them based on their ranking in Sourcewell's evaluation. And you might say, well, what is Sourcewell? Sourcewell is a government organization that has over 40 years of experience and service in helping governments to operate more efficiently via a variety of solutions, one of those being contract purchasing. So they have extensive government background, and they had ranked the top 7 they thought in fleet management. So Enterprise being one of those 7, actually ranked number 2. I contacted the other 6, and in your agenda, you had a quick briefing of what the results were from those contacts. The first one, ranked number 1, was a company called Commercial Vehicle Leasing, known better as D&M Leasing. When I talked to them, the vendor stated their business model was not a good fit for the county. They were more so oriented toward leasing programs totally and larger volume than the county had, but specifically if we were purchasing, wasn't anything they could do with our business model. Second was Enterprise, which you've heard the presentation from. Third ranked was Automotive Rentals, now known as Holman Fleet. They initially acknowledged and had conversation with them, but as I did in every one of them, I followed up the initial conversation with a list of, okay, what the county's looking for. We're looking to purchase. We're looking for, maintenance programs, and, 6 or 7 bullet points. And after I gave them that list, they never responded back. After several repeated contacts, they just never responded to me. Fourth on the list was Enterprise Fleet Management. They did respond back, but their government effort is relatively new, and they had no presence in North Carolina.
Sorry, that's Element.
Element.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Enterprise.
I'm sorry. Words are running together. Element Fleet, excuse me. The fifth one was Merchants Fleet. This one also, actually this one called and we had extensive conversation. A lot of times they responded back via email, but this guy called me up. He was very thorough and wanted to help. He said, in all honesty, our model is not a good fit for the county needs. So I took the opportunity to ask him. I said, okay, you're in the business, you out there all the time. What do you see, or who do you see out there that may be able to help us based on the list of requirements that I sent him? And he first said, Enterprise is about the only one comes to mind. He said Enterprise has a niche market that they basically cater to small government entities, and he said, they're about the only ones that I know of that would meet your requirements for the county. And he said, have you contacted them? And I told him, well, yes, I'd made some contact. I didn't elaborate on it, but that was his recommendation. 6 on the list was a company called Sewell Fleet Management. Again, they were quick to state that their business model was not a good fit for the county. And then seventh was Mike Albert Fleet Solutions, and they also gave the same comment that theirs model was just not a good fit for the county. So most of these, as stated in the agenda, were predominantly serving large entities, and most of them preferred strict leasing versus purchasing, as we have indicated that we would like to do. You know, staff has not really found anybody other than Enterprise that seems to focus in on our exact market. And, you know, as I'll mention in a minute, there's multiple counties that have already partnered with Enterprise. The Sheriff's Department, who is our largest single entity in the fleet group, Mickey Rogers, who looks after the sheriff's fleet, said he contacted several of his counterparts that were using Enterprise, and he said, I have not gotten one negative comment involving Enterprise as a corporation or using Enterprise. And Tracy and Amy, from a finance standpoint, have talked to some of their counterparts and come to the same conclusion that Enterprise is out there and ready to work with small counties, rural counties like us, and have not found any negative comments. So as Enterprise has made the presentation to you guys and to us in multiple meetings, they're able to provide, we think, very successful and desirable results for our county fleet program. Namely being they can improve vehicle safety by getting new vehicles in front of us with all the modern entities that new vehicles have versus a lot of our fleet right now, as we mentioned last meeting, was 2008 to 2012, 2015 models. We can optimize time to replace vehicles, capitalizing on resale. We can buy cheap and we can use it for 2-3 years, whatever that magic number is that they decide, and turn around and put it back on the market and probably sell it for 2/3 of what we bought it for. You know, long-term planning, creating long-term financial savings, detailed maintenance plans with extensive feedback and follow-up, and that seemed to be a real question that you guys had in the last meeting. But the maintenance of it is really transparent. Enterprise already has programs set up with AJ's, which is predominantly does probably 90% of the sheriff's vehicle repairs here now. So AJ's already has an Enterprise program, and Mr. Tire already has an Enterprise program. And Enterprise has said, hey, we will partner with other agencies in the county or other vendors in the county that you deem appropriate. Obviously, we told them up front, Brands is probably one needs to be on our list, and maybe a couple others. And they said they would be very willing to work toward getting those on our list. So as it turns out, it could be that the maintenance will be pretty much nothing different than what we have now, other than better reporting, more efficient cost, and hopefully a better long-term solution. And then, you know, upfitting of vehicles is something that's really more of an issue than any of us really realize right now, even myself. You know, Enterprise is saying they can upfit vehicles and have them sheriff ready to hit the road when they are delivered to the county. And I'm gonna jump down a little bit and say, you know, that's one reason of one of many examples that staff found that would really be a positive for the county. For instance, right now we have a 2019 Dodge Durango. It's got 51,000 miles on it, and the Sheriff's Department is wanting to surplus that vehicle because they just can't make it work. It's got numerous electrical problems. It's been back and forth to the vendor, you know, probably, you know, 6, 8, 10 times back and forth to Henderson, where, you know, the dealership is. You know, it's kind of gotten to the blame game. The dealer is saying, okay, you know, we don't want to put a lot of money in it because you've had a company come in and put all the lights, sirens, so forth on it, which is a lot of electrical upfitting. So we think the electrical problem is what they done. And obviously, so it's back and forth with no end solution. So we're yet to determine what we're going to end up doing with that vehicle. I just can't see surplusing more than 51,000 miles on it. But yet we've got to address it. And why I'm saying all this is, you know, you'd got two entities back and forth blaming each other. If Enterprise were selected to be our fleet manager, they're the sole responsible person. When we get it, you know, they're handling the upfitting, any problems whatsoever, goes back to them and they take care of it. So we've recognized a lot of benefits of the program, but, you know, I was quite surprised when I looked at just who are they partnering with now. They made the comment in here that they had several partners in North Carolina, so I went through the list and I didn't write them all down, but basically Granville County, Stanley County, Yadkin County, Surrey County, Onslow County, Hertford County, Bertie County, Gates County, Lenoir County, all are partnered with Enterprise. When you look at some of the municipalities, Emerald Isle, Mount Olive, Hendersonville, Norwood, Roanoke Rapids, Rocky Mount. So they're all partnered with them. So I guess in summary, you know, the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office, Finance Department, General Services Department, and staff, we really endorse a proposed partnership with Enterprise and support that. We just think that their Enterprise program offers the county the opportunity to purchase and replace vehicles earlier, improve driver safety, improve gas mileage, improve employee morale, reduce maintenance expenses based on having a newer fleet. And so we propose that this maintenance program would be a benefit to the county. Even in a projection of spreading the numbers out on a spreadsheet, it appears that over a 10-year period, this program is projected to save $1.3 million and support more predictable fleet budgeting. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but beyond that, staff would propose that we enter into a partnership with Enterprise Fleet Management Program. And of course, I've got, Catherine and Amy and Tracy, all of us have been involved in it, so we're all happy to try to answer any questions.
If approved to go this route, when would this process be implemented? This upcoming budget cycle?
Yes, we would be shooting for this upcoming budget season. I don't think there's anything we can do any quicker than that to make a reasonable transition.
Okay.
Is that agreeable, everybody?
Comments?
I love the idea.
Manager?
Just to elaborate on the timeline, what we would do is if the board indicates the support for joining this program, we would work with Enterprise over the course of the next few months to go ahead and develop that program. We would go ahead and submit to them a list of vehicles that we would potentially want to replace July 1st. And then that's still contingent upon approval in the budget. So you will still work through a similar budgeting process to allocate a certain amount of money towards vehicle replacements. But what Enterprise can do is go ahead and secure these vehicles ahead of time so that they can be ready to go very close to that July 1st date. So we're not waiting months and months into the new fiscal year to actually receive vehicles. The Sheriff's Department's still waiting on some that they ordered as part of this current fiscal year. They have not yet received those. So this will help us move forward with those replacements much quicker, and we'll make sure that we are working diligently on getting the details in place prior to July 1st.
And I think it was mentioned last time, and I'm not sure we gave you an ounce or not, but, you know, what if somewhere down the road we decide that we went down the wrong road, that it's not a good fit? We're not entering into any kind of long-term contract with Enterprise. They basically are on board as a partner, and at any point in time that we deem it's not advantageous to the county, then we can separate and go another route.
How many vehicles your department, your vehicles are broken down into several categories, but total, not sheriff's, but yours?
Probably about 90, and when you say mine, I look after
Well-
most all the fleet except for the sheriff's department. So
Right, yeah.
they're kind of under the umbrella. I do the ordering, I do the reselling and stuff like that. But about 90 probably for
They have
general
how many?
services, and sheriff's department probably handles between 50 and 60.
Just say 60 in round numbers. I think in your comment somewhere, you mentioned having talked to other counties. You talked to who in the county did you speak with?
I
mean,
spoke with,
where?
most recently with the Granville County manager about
So,
it, so.
one.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. I spoke with several. And I'm not gonna be a naysayer here, but I'm gonna speak my piece. I don't think I don't say that it's a plus, but I don't know of anyone else at this table that has more experience with cars than I do. So, that's the end of that story. Well, I spoke with several, and they fell into typically two categories. Number one was they have not been involved with enterprise long enough to come to any conclusion with the data. Short term, too short. And even one that had been involved 3 years, one of those listed in this group, they had found that after 3 years, the supportive data related to savings was headed in the wrong direction. They were not impressed. I do, and I've said previously to you in discussions that it would take 3 to 5 years to really look at the data, look at the facts, and determine whether you're making a good decision here or not. To cancel out after 1 year or 2 years, that would not be a wise move.
Right.
Because you wouldn't have supported data. And I respect you, sir, as well as our sheriff and, what was his name, Rogers, that may be doing.
Mickey Rogers.
Yeah, so, I respect your experience and what you need there, so that's not an issue either. Two things come to my mind, and we've talked about quite a bit here, is safety. And there's no one at this table, nor in this room, nor in this county, that wants anything greater than safety. If our people aren't safe, then we need to rethink what we're doing and do the very best that we can. Then on the second part with me is taxpayer money. That's what I feel responsible for, that to spend the taxpayer money to the best of our ability, and we need to look at some things. We've just talked about a $21 million commitment here. And this board has two others on the table right now that are large ticket items that have been long time coming, but we're to that point that we need to make decisions related to those. So we're talking some big ticket items. So is it the right time to go this route? Is a question I think we need to talk about a lot. But again, we are definitely accountable to the public for spending taxpayer money. And so where are the savings related to going this route? So that might be subjective to your perspective, but I think it's extremely important. And when we're talking this subject, I do see some problems. You listed three, I believe there were 3 objectives that were listed on on Enterprise's list as to objectives for going this route. Weren't there 3?
I don't recall the exact number. Is that from their presentation? at
The
budget
lower average
retreat?
age of fleet, reduce operating costs, and maintain a manageable vehicle budget. Well, when we buy new cars, you or the sheriff, we accomplish all 3 of those goals. We don't have to go through Enterprise. That's pretty much a given. Reduction of age and operating costs, sure. and especially the first 3 to 5 years. You automatically, you're gonna have a reduction in cost. So, to me, I don't see much value in a huge consideration. I mean, those are good points, but to make a decision based on those 3 points, I don't necessarily see that. Another thing that is a flag to me is we would be entering into a third-party entity. So when your vehicle breaks down on the way to work or in the field, you gotta call someone else. That someone else is going to call someone else. So the more hands we have involved in this, the more complications I see. So from a logistical standpoint, I see a major issue there, because even inter-office communication with other subjects, the more hands that are on a particular item, the fuzzy it gets and the harder it does get to make a decision. And 2, you've got a fleet of 150 cars here.
Exactly.
And then, of course, you could add some, but you have got only 3 identified service agencies. So do the math there. How many cars? Of course, with new cars, you have a reduction there. Another thing that I sort of saw a flag with was I believe it's called in your statement there, the problem child. Was that the term?
Talking about the electrical problem?
Yeah, whatever that was.
Mhm.
Well, in North Carolina law, that's called a lemon law. So there's your route you take when you've got the problem child.
Well, not to interrupt, but if we hadn't had the electrical work done by another company, you're probably right, you could exercise the lemon law, but by 2 vendors being
Well,
there, they blaming each
yeah.
other.
I did lemon law work for nearly 18, going on 19 years or more. And with dispute settlement, it was by far the most cases that I served on, by far, because it's a popular thing. When someone has a troubled car, it becomes a lemon, and sometimes that lemon is in their head. It's not a manufacturer's fault. So, but again, in dealing with dispute settlement and new cars, been down that path many times. So, and your point is correct. That again would go back to a transition into what I said previously. The more hands you have involved in something here, the more difficult it becomes. The objective here is to, number one, be safe. Number one, have vehicles that stay on the road. Yours may not be as critical, but they're necessary. And when we have a sheriff vehicle on the road and it breaks down to an emergency, he's got to call someone who knows where. Doesn't matter. And then another call has got to be placed. So he's there. Productivity lost, and maybe even endangerment of lives. Who knows where that call is going? So I think there's a lot here to consider, and I appreciate all you've done in the research and to look into the matter. I'm not sure exactly how that was prompted in the beginning and where that request came from. It was in process before. I won't say we, because I don't know. I didn't know about it until you already engaged with some. So again, it's extremely important and takes, I think it does deserve a lot of consideration on our part. And so again, I think we've got some extremely high dollar tickets on the counter, on the table, that we need to consider. And to go into this at this point in time, I'm not convinced that it's the right time to do this. And again, I'm trying to look out for the entire county, the entire taxpayers' money that's going into this, and go about it in a commonsensical manner and make the best decision related to going forward with this request. And my recommendation would be to consider your recommendation for vehicle replacement. I think you can easily identify those that would be at the top of the list and at the bottom of the list as far as dependability, and the sheriff could do the same thing. Another point of consideration there is the sheriff has his own budget, at which we have no control over. He has various options within that department that are his. So he has options to pick and choose and identify the cars that he needs based on equipment and his needs there. And I would rely on, I'll say, your department and his department to evaluate those vehicles and here again, make wise use of taxpayer money.
Couple of,
Right.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So I'm a little bit confused here, and so my understanding just by your presentation that your recommendation is to go with Enterprise. Is that
That's correct.
Because I was confused when you said you go with his original recommendation, you said, and I got confused by that.
Well, the original is the same. I mean, it's,
Well,
yeah.
well, the original.
He recommended that in the beginning. Is that not right, Ray?
recommended going with Enterprise?
Going with Enterprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what was in your agenda packet material.
Mhm.
And so,
And-
yeah. it's-
Right.
Yeah, just like with the cost savings, you know, just what, $1.3 million, 10-year cost, and I agree in partial, it is gonna take time to recoup any cost savings with that. I do agree with that, with the chairman's comments, but, I guess, one box, one county doesn't fit all services, and so it's possible that this does not work with some counties, and I'm gonna agree with the chairman on that, but we don't know. We initially talked about doing a program such as this back in 07, 08, decided not to do it at that time. Who knows if, that's 10 years later, who knows if we had been able to make the right decision on that, if that was the wrong decision at the time. But, I agree with the element of public safety, and I'm not gonna challenge your knowledge of vehicles, Mr. Chairman. But if the staff is comfortable with going this direction, I'm comfortable with proceeding with the staff recommendation with Enterprise.
Anyone else?
I would like to insert, if we chose this route, and then 3 years, 2 years, 5 years down the road, we see it's not working, we're gonna be in a pickle. Because they're gonna take all their vehicles back until we can replace.
We're actually gonna be in a purchase program.
Purchase agreement.
So we're purchasing, unlike a lot of the other companies offer, where they want you to lease vehicles, we're gonna purchase our vehicles. So we're gonna own them, they're just basically managing our vehicles for us.
Okay. I misunderstood that part then. Okay.
I mean, I like the idea too, simply because the fact that they have more ability to keep up with the inventory that we need. I mean, you said yourself, we struggled the last couple of years keeping up with demand. And with them, it sounds like they can keep up with the demand we have, and that right there keeps the car safer because you're in a better vehicle year after year. If your staff is, comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it.
I'm for at least giving it a chance and giving it a shot and see how it works out for our county. And I understand the concerns that Chairman Gordon Powell has with us and his, concerns, and I'm sure they're out there. We'll have to deal with that, but I just feel like we should give this a shot and see how it works. Your staff has recommended that, or supports it, and then we see where we go from there. And I think, again, you know, when it's 3, 4, 5 years down the road, see where we're at with that. It just depends on where we see our costs and how much it's costing us as a county, but I think we should at least give it a shot. Thank you.
Anyone else? Again, I look at this thing as I go back to 2 points, and that's safety, top priority, barring none. But this decision is not a popularity contest. This is about taxpayer money, and that being expended. And I think we've maintained a decent fleet over the years. And if we want to go 3 years down the road, we spent about $3.5 million at least, at minimum, to gain the knowledge of what we're saying we want out of data. And I'm simply doing my duty and expressing my concerns and explaining myself. So, any other comments? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to move forward with a partnership with Enterprise Fleet Management.
And motion on the floor, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Okay, I guess we're all done then with that one.
Yes.
Okay, as far as Chairman's report, just a couple of things from the community standpoint. I did have the distinct pleasure and honor of being at a Scout, Eagle Scout ceremony, which is always a good event to attend, to be involved in. Did visit the veterans presentation at PCC last week, where we had veterans from Caswell and Person County there to speak to vendors about needed services being offered with the veterans from both those counties or both these counties. Very impressive, good turnout, and a lot of information gained there. And also, another distinct privilege was attending the Person County Little League opening day ceremony Saturday morning, where we had a huge crowd. I don't know how many hundred people were there, but most of all, and most importantly, children taking part in, I believe, 13 scheduled baseball games that particular day. And right here in Person County, bragging on Mr. Hill and his staff and that facility. It's top drawer, and it does attract a lot of people from outside the county, and it was a pleasure to be there and see that event taking place. Manager Kathy?
I'd like to remind everybody that your next board meeting on April 1st will begin at 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. So that'll be your first earlier night meeting, and it will be held here in this room. I also want to note that Elliot shared in his presentation about the Person County Fan Fest that's coming up, and this is a new program that we're offering in conjunction with other community partners. It'll be held at Huck Sansbury on April 13th from 10 to 2. And it will just be an event that is oriented towards all members of our community. There will be activities, and we will be sharing a lot of information about various resources throughout the county that are offered not only by us but other community partners. So it'll be a great time for socializing and for learning about wellness and community resources.
Thank you. Commissioner Sims?
Just want to state that, as it was brought up earlier about my concerns with environmental health and safety and doing land and stormwater evaluation on an annual basis. You know, I think that the other companies, larger companies, Impervious Ground, they will require to do stormwater testing, just as my company is. And so I felt like, again, with it being a junkyard, that I felt like that we should be doing environmental testing and also with the water and ground. So that's my comments with that, and that's it. That's all I gotta say.
Mr. Palmer?
Okay, I saw you leaving as I was going to Rockford Little League.
Well, I saw you
Saturday.
coming, so I left. Not offensive.
I was late because
but
I
you
had to
could-
work.
But you could take over, you know, so that's good.
And I had my work clothes on. Not gonna go into the subject matter of what I had work on done. But anyway, it was a huge attendance there. They were, I'm gonna estimate 300 to 500
Probably.
kids total that was playing that day.
Probably, yes.
Since then, I've talked to John, no, before that, I think it was last week, I talked to John about this Charters of Freedom project we've got going still. And before I forget it, there's papers at the end of this hallway on the table down there for those who want to donate. Private citizens, employees, you can get a brick or a paver, or you can make a sizable amount of a donation, paying it forward, and get your a bronze plaque within the pedestal to be placed in when they seal the time capsule. Light on the pole is being furnished by Tommy Lawrence. That was somehow or another missed during the installation. I don't know if it's gonna be a solar light or is it going to bore up under that concrete or cut the concrete or whatever, but anyway, we're gonna have a light up there soon. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Perrier.
No report.
Commissioner Thomas?
It was brought to my attention this weekend that we had 2 detention officers be hospitalized when they came in contact with a substance with an inmate. Maybe we can get the sheriff come in the next meeting and maybe talk about policy procedure with dealing with inmates and maybe figure a way out to where it's more safer for our employees. That's all I got.
Okay. All right, next item is a closed session. Do you need a minute prior to, or you want to go into this right now?
I need a minute.